good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Alex McKelvie. Since the summer, I've had the privilege of becoming the Interim Dean of the Whitman School of Management. Many of you may recognize me since I've been a faculty member here at the Whitman School for 15 years. I arrived in summer of 2007 and have taken on a number of different roles, including as faculty member in entrepreneurship, department chair, and the last few years as associate dean. It is my distinct privilege today to give you an update on the state of the school. And this is a very exciting time for the Whitman School, and so I'm really excited to share some really good news with you all. What I'll do is I'll present first, and at the end, we'll open up the opportunity for any of you to ask questions. What you can see is down through the chat button or the Q&A button, you'll be able to insert any comments. We'll have Chris Crooker, who is our assistant dean for advancement, let me know what questions are there, and we'll be able to answer those afterwards. So I'll speak for a few minutes, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to ask me whatever's on your mind about the state of Whitman. And I'd say the one key theme you're going to hear from me today is that the Whitman School is truly on the rise. And there are so many different proof points to support that. While we're looking at students, while we're looking at research and faculty, while we're looking at new initiatives, there's so many different things that we can be extremely proud of about where the Whitman School is going and what we've accomplished over the last little bit. And I'll start with perhaps the biggest one, and that is we welcomed a few weeks ago the biggest incoming class in the history of the Whitman School. Our undergraduate class was 140 more than we'd ever been before. So that means in real numbers, 626 brand new students, first year students joined us, in addition to approximately 100 internal transfers coming elsewhere from across campus and external transfers coming from other universities. And so this really is a very big number, but it's a reflection of a lot of the good work that the school has been doing to attract the best students, to place the best students, and providing really a foundational and extremely high quality learning experience while students are here. And we see that as measured by the applicants. So last year we had almost a record number, 7,000 applicants just to the Whitman School. And as a school where we do direct admits, where students apply to the business school, not from other places on campus and then transfer in, that's really an impressive number. It also puts us at the top of the class for the entire university, where we look at the number of applicants per student, per allotted slot. We're actually the school with the longest line out of its doors across campus. Now, those of you thinking, how did you be able to grow 140 more students than you ever had before? You must be lower in quality. You must be looking at different standards. And what we're seeing is, in fact, quite the opposite, that this year, the undergraduate class who joined us was extremely impressive and, in fact, had the highest high school GPA that we'd ever seen. So this year, the incoming class had a GPA of 3.80, whereas in previous years, it was in the low 3.7s. So we're able to grow academic quality, or one aspect of academic quality. We've also seen that we've been able to grow diversity. Now, for diversity for business schools, a lot of that's related to gender diversity, where business schools tend to provide class shaping for the rest of the university by having more males, whereas a number of the other schools on campus tend to bring in more females. This year, our incoming class was 47% female, so we're very close to being on gender par with between male and female. And this is a major lift from a few years ago where we were in the mid 30s. So again, going up to 47% of the incoming class being female. And that's a real reflection of a lot of the good things we've been doing in the Whitman School, from role modeling to hire more diverse faculty members to doing programming specifically supporting women in business and women in leadership positions. We've also seen racial diversity increase in the incoming class, whether you're an underrepresented minority group or multiracial. What we've tried to do is we try to create a business school that's welcoming to all. And so our numbers for this past year really reflect that, where we can proudly say that we not only have the largest incoming class, we also have the most diverse and academically qualified incoming class. And that good news is not only reserved for undergraduate program. Our residential MBA and MS programs have also seen equally good increases. This year, we welcomed in 161 students, and that's 30 more than the year before, and a big lift from a few years ago when we were less than 100. And that's a reflection of the full-time MBA program as well as the 6 MS programs that we offer. While doing that, we're also able to increase the academic readiness. In this particular one, we've looked at things like GPA from the undergraduate programs. And once again, those GPAs are higher than ever before and show that the students we're attracting are of high quality. What's interesting also with the graduate school, with the MBA and the MS programs, is that we're able to grow a lot of the programs with geographic diversity. So this year we welcome students to a school from 19 different countries and 6 different continents. So this is a major change from a few years ago, where we're recruiting from the 2 most populous countries in the world, India and China. Now we have students from all around the world, including doing some breakthroughs in multiple countries in Africa, in Latin America, in Europe, and also this year with New Zealand. The biggest growing programs we see in MS Business Analytics. Those of you who are in business will know the value of analytics, and our program and our faculty have really done a good job at investing in and improving some of the academic courses and offerings we have in that area. And not surprising, that our MS in supply chain management has also grown. One of the recurring themes we saw from the pandemic was the importance of supply chain and understanding the issues that many businesses are facing. So with our great faculty team, including some well-known national media presence types of faculty and others who are prolific scholars, we're really able to grow the demand for that program as well. And that's a reflection of the time. So we're very fortunate to have so many talented students here in our undergraduate and our master's programs. Now, as a reflection of the very large incoming class, we also needed to bring in some more help. So we're able to hire 7 new faculty members doing research in really cutting edge areas related to diversity, equity, inclusion, related to women in business, related to ESG reporting, related to fintech, related to financial econometrics, and other high quality areas. We also are able to bring in 5 new staff members, and these reflect our investments in the undergraduate advising office, in our career center, among other things. So we really have a full house this year with all these new students and all these new faculty and staff. Now, I know we're still early in the system, but recent reports we have is that fall of 23 is even looking better. We're already up about 11% ahead of where we were at this time last year. And so it's just another reflection of the Whitman School being on the rise. Now, one of the second proof points I want to bring to your attention is our rankings. Now, people will know that I do not love rankings, but I know many parents do, and many students do, and many corporate partners do. And so even though we had great news back in the spring, where we had our highest ever undergraduate rankings according to Poets and Quants, and we had our second highest MBA rankings with the US News, we saw again this fall that other rankings bodies are also improving how they view the quality of the Whitman education. So the undergraduate rankings by US News and World Report and the MBA rankings by Bloomberg Business Week also showed us improving in the double digits. So when I talk about Whitman being on the rise, not only is on the student side, but we're also seeing that rankings organizations and the peer schools are recognizing the quality of work that we're doing and our pursuit of excellence. So thirdly, one of the things that's important for Syracuse University is that there are so many pockets of excellence here that we really need to take advantage of. Now, when we think about modern education, it's much more than being a functional expert and being an expert in finance or marketing. You really need to have holistic understanding of complicated issues, whether it's politics, whether it's science, whether it's international relations, or whether it's public health. And so that really drives a lot of our expansion across campus and developing partners and dual degrees with other schools on campus. So just recently, in the last year, we've been able to expand the number of undergraduate dual programs. This is students who are coming in to both Whitman and another school on campus. And we've expanded to the 2 new majors in the I School. We've expanded in math in arts and sciences. We've also been able to expand into international relations with the Maxwell School. What you see in the slide there, CPS, is the College of Professional Studies. So those of you who were on campus, you might know this as University College or UC. It's the building immediately across from the Whitman School. What we did with them is we partnered to offer an undergraduate business education degree in collaboration with them. So they take a number of Whitman courses. This is all online, and they offer a lot of their College of Professional Studies degree courses as well, excuse me. And so what that does is really opens up lifelong learning to a lot of people who want to come back and complete their degree through a well-known university like Syracuse. At the graduate level, we were also delighted to announce a number of new partnerships. One of them, and where we welcomed our first class, is in the MD/MBA market, and that's in partnership with Upstate Medical College, or Medical University rather, which is just 3 blocks down the road. This semester, we welcomed 3 new students into that program, all outstanding young individuals with amazing credentials, and who are doing very, very well in our program so far. Now, what that will mean is that after they complete their MBA, they're going to go on and do their medical degree. So by the time they graduate in 5 years from now, they'll have both the medical doctor degree as well as an MBA degree. And that'll open up a number of different career paths for them in hospital administration, in private practice, in medical technology, or any other of the many ways in which business and healthcare overlap. We also launched a brand new set of partnership degrees with the Maxwell School, in particular the MPA, the Master of Public Administration / MBA, as well as the MAIR, which is the Master of Arts in International Relations / MBA. Now, what these programs do is allow us to partner with the #1 ranked college in the world for public administration and international relations, to make sure that as our students are thinking about the global world and understanding the influence of politics and private business, we're able to have well-balanced and well-developed individuals who are comfortable in both these spheres. So within approximately 2.5, maybe up to 3 years of time, they'll study both degrees and they'll graduate with both and completion. We also launched a new CAS. This is a graduate level certificate that's recognized by New York State. And in particular, this one looks at technology, law, and entrepreneurship, and that's with the College of Law. Now, what that does is it prepares students for work at the intersection of intellectual property and business, whether it's technology, commercialization, understanding new product development. Now, the students in that program will get a little bit of law to be able to understand how a lot of the regulatory and rules work for intellectual property, as well as understanding go-to-market strategy, competitive strategy, and a lot of the entrepreneurship aspect that will really make the students have a great background for what lies ahead at the intersection of law and business. And I'm also happy to say that in the next couple of weeks, perhaps in January, we'll have a few more. So these are, I don't want to be too early here. These have been approved by the schools and colleges. But we want to make sure that they are approved by the Senate before we have an announcement. But pending good news in the very near future, we'll have another few of these dual programs to announce to really support how Whitman works well together with our partners across campus to make sure that our students are as ready for that future as they can be. We're also offering a number of new programs. The most important one is, now that we're entering a kind of a post-pandemic world, that we're returning heavily to New York City. So starting January, we'll have 4 intensive courses. Now, these intensive courses will be held in New York City, in Manhattan. That'll take a full week. So they're kind of 9 to 5 every day for a full week. That's going to rely heavily on industry partners, on our alumni base, to really come in and provide this amazing learning experience. Now, when we work the faculty to start these courses, we make sure that these are courses that we could not offer in Syracuse, that they're by design set up to work with our alumni, with leaving the building, then where you can only really get that kind of knowledge and experience in New York City. And we have courses in marketing, we have a course in finance, we have a course in real estate, entrepreneurship, and accounting. So touching on a number of important topics. We've also increased the number of our career exploration trips. This is really giving younger students the opportunity to come and see and visit New York City, to understand what is it like to live here, meet with a number of important corporate partners to see what is their individual organizational culture look like, what does a career with that organization look like. So we're expanding those this year, including real estate for the first time. In prior years, we've had marketing, retail, finance, entrepreneurship, among others. We're also expanding our study away. This is a full semester in New York City. Now, the key part of that study away is the internship program, where students will have successfully secured internships with world-renowned companies, including some of the big four in accounting, Goldman Sachs, BDBO, among others. Now, what that means is that the students are working full-time as interns, as well as taking classes. And so we've offered some classes that they can take there in New York City, as well as online through some of the other partners on campus, to be able to make sure that they're moving towards degree completion. Now, as companies have opened back up, welcoming students back, we're happy to say that we're able to scale that program, where in previous years we've been 2 or 3 as companies companies weren't really allowing students back in. We're looking to be in the teens this year as we welcome that opportunity to support our students. What we're finding is that these are really good opportunities for students to launch their careers and make those connections. By and large, those internship opportunities have led to full-time job offers, which means that it's a win-win for both the students and the parents. Now, the other thing we started this year is our first ever Silicon Valley exploration trip. This is an idea we've had for a few years, but it was on hold during the pandemic. We were unsure how many students were interested in going to the Bay Area. And when we launched this program and started to market it, we were overwhelmed by the applications. We thought maybe we'd have 20, maybe 25. We had over 120 applications, and we had to expand the number of slots available to 20. Now, students just returned from this trip a few weeks ago, actually end of last week, and they had an amazing time working with big name companies like Google and LinkedIn, working with smaller companies in incubators and startup space, as well as with venture capitalists at Lux Capital. We also had a really innovative dinner with a number of alumni who made the time to come in and connect with our students. And the reports from their students and the alumni have been tremendously positive about how a life-changing experience this is. In our online sphere, we have a very successful online master's program, and many of this is conducted online half the time, and then have face-to-face meetings the other half of class. Now, what we do in that program is we also have residencies. These are weekend-long courses where we can travel to different parts of the world, parts of the US, to be able to offer really timely courses on special topics. So just recently, we conducted one on alternative investments in New York City, and we also did the business of healthcare innovation. So really connecting into some of that work we're trying to do in healthcare and the MBA space. And we continue to create new programs for that, whether it's the Whitman Challenge and students work hands-on with companies to solve real problems for them, or whether it's learning from industry experts on a number of important topics. We continue to be very innovative in this residency for our online programs. And lastly, we created the Goodman Leaders Academy this year. This is a small group of elite students who are getting very personal touches in a group of 20 students to get a lot of leadership and interpersonal skill development to really kind of take them to the next level of their leadership potential, but also making sure that they're developing those tight network connections with industry experts, with faculty, and with each other. So it's a little bit of a different type of perspective on our Goodman Impress program, which really touches so many students, all of our students in many ways. And the Goodman Leaders Academy is a much more select group focusing on specific individual students and their personal development. So we're happy to offer those this year. Now, Whitman really needs you. Although there's so many things that we can be proud of, that there's so many proof points about the success and why Whitman's on the rise, we need your help to be able to take it to the next step. So when we think about how our alumni shape our success, many of you can think back from your time here on campus and how individual alumni were there to provide support individually for you, whether it's to help open doors at a company to get students jobs, or whether it's to get someone an internship. We need you to help do that. So even though our record numbers for placement have been achieved in the last year for the MBA and the undergraduate, we know that it's part of our job to help each and every student get the job of their dreams within a few months after graduation. So anything that you can do to help provide jobs or internships for our students is very welcome. But even before that, we have a lot of opportunities for being mentored, just having a conversation or a cup of coffee with a student about how you can help them think through a couple issues or open doors for them, whether it's judging one of our many competitions here on campus. For example, when we have a Shark Tank type of competition here on campus called Orange Tank, we're always very appreciative of our alumni who are willing to give back and help provide a lot of those conversations, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching, just to make sure that our students are on the right track and can learn from your experience. And it's really about paying it forward in many ways. We also have project-based learning opportunities as we're trying to make sure that our education is in touch and in line with industry. We're always on the lookout for ways for our students to get more experiential learning and have applied learning to their classes, whether it's a specific project that they can do or take on as a consulting project. We're also looking for additional connections with top companies and corporate relations. So whether that's opening up future ways for us to come and visit in New York City and Silicon Valley, or any of the other places we will be going to in the near future, any of the doors you can open to help to make those connections and make Whitman an even more relevant place is always appreciative. And also importantly is if you have connections to terrific students who are looking for a graduate degree, looking for a very fast rising undergraduate degree, or even faculty who you think would be really good fits, whether on the academic and the research side and looking for a tenure track position, or whether some of our industry experienced faculty, our professors of practice. We're always looking for leads as we're trying to make as good a team as possible here. And we can also appreciate your financial support. So those of you who aren't able to give your time, there's ways of providing scholarship funding to make sure that Whitman is accessible to all, but also in some cases, using the scholarship to attract the best and brightest students to make sure that Whitman is in a good position. We also have a number of opportunities through the Dean's Fund. Now, the Dean's Fund is one of our highest priority areas. And what that does is it allows us to use some discretion with how we spend our money. For example, this last year with the Dean's Discretionary Fund, we were able to do a number of curricular innovations, creating new classes, providing a lot of those New York City experiences. But we also created things like the Emergency Relief Scholarship. Now, what that was is kind of scholarships to help students get across the goal line where they face significant issues in their personal life and where financial aid couldn't help. So whether it was a student whose parent passed away and they could no longer afford Syracuse, to the financial implications of COVID wiping out all the family's wealth and ability to pay, to the international students from Ukraine or Pakistan who've faced significant issues in their homelands, and that has altered their ability to continue on at Syracuse. So when I think of Syracuse as the Orange family, and we talk about family when we do recruiting, one of the best ways we can do that is showing that we're family, is by being there where we can really, when students need us most. And that's where the emergency scholarship really comes in. But a lot of the time, the Dean's Discretionary Fund makes these great experiences, whether Silicon Valley or New York City or global experiences, more accessible. So this is where we can always use your help. And we also appreciate your programmatic support, whether it's a specific idea, whether it's supporting a particular program or department. We're always looking for new ways to provide this next best-in-class experience, and your financial support allows us to do this. So with that, I wanted to thank you all for being here today. It was my privilege to share some of the proof points and pride points for what's going on at Whitman. If you want to get involved, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, to Allison Kessler on our alumni team, to Chris Kirker on the development team, and we'll make sure that you find the right person. So with that, I will open up to questions, but be Orange, be Whitman. Thank you very much.
Hey, Alex, it's Chris. We've got a couple of questions already. You ready to can I fire away here?
Please.
Fantastic. First one comes from Maria. She expresses her appreciation for you taking the time to do this. You talked a little bit about some of our cross-campus campus collaborations. She's asking specifically about Newhouse. Here we have an amazing college right here under our roof. What can you share with us about Whitman's connectivity to the Newhouse School?
So number one, thanks very much for your question, Maria. Newhouse is an outstanding school, wonderful partner here on campus. So while I was highlighting some of the new partnerships, I'm happy to say the Newhouse one is perhaps one of our longest standing and most successful. So this past fall, we brought in over 50 students in the Newhouse/Whitman dual program. What that means is that students will be both Whitman students and Newhouse students and complete with both degrees. It does take more time. It's a lot of credits, but we tend to find that these are the best students from academic potential. I also said they're great leaders, and so we're doing a lot with them at the undergraduate program. Currently, and we're actually in discussions with them to doing even more in relation to media or entertainment and at the intersection of business, as well as some other things related to esports and related to kind of new media and innovation. So there's a lot of small partnerships that go on in discussions that we have, and there's great programming at Newhouse, including their ResAc guest speaker series, which is actually held every Wednesday here in the Whitman School, where they have industry well-known speakers that come in with regularity, and we're happy to provide some students for that. But the biggest piece is clearly the dual with them, where we had more than 50 students who joined us this past fall right into that dual program. Thank you, Maria.
Awesome. Tom points out some of the economic renewal that's going on here in Central New York. It's attracted a lot of attention of late, and he's wondering how we see Whitman fitting into these obvious opportunities that are happening. Certainly specifically the Micron announcement was on above the fold everywhere. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. Well, this is something this is great news for all of Central New York. This is great news for New York State. Those of you who haven't followed the news over the past couple of weeks, or a few weeks ago, Syracuse received a $100 billion commitment from Micron to open a new chip factory just north of the university in a town called Clay. Now, with that comes, approximately 50,000 direct and indirect jobs, a lot of economic development. And one of the things that was interesting about Micron is also their commitment to the local ecosystem, whether it's working with underrepresented minority vendors, whether it's working with veteran-owned businesses, especially in kind of the construction and the development side, but also their appreciation for the natural resources that are here in Central New York, such as our abundance of water, the great infrastructure that we have here. We're close to 2 highways, the high human capital population, among other things. Now, there's obviously going to be a lot of direct impact on the university, and the fact that that was announced at the university is telling. Now, what the university is doing is they're developing a task force. Right now, it's being chaired by Vice Chancellor Mike Haney, who's also a Whitman professor. But what that'll do is it'll allow the university to have one consistent message and strategy to working with Micron. At a business school, when we're bringing that many high quality employees to town, especially those who have engineering backgrounds, there's going to be opportunities for upskilling, for kind of personal renewal, such as with MBAs. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on supply chain. There's going to be some residual impact with significant others, with children who are looking for education. But also importantly for some of our community programs. So I know some of our leadership from the Wise Women Business Center and the Southside Innovation Center have been part of local organizations working directly with Micron to make sure that that our underrepresented groups are also part of the discussion with them. So there's a number of key opportunities that we see in the future, and especially as we think about what we're working together with the engineering school, and also centrally through our community relations. Now, while Micron is one of the good stories, Syracuse locally is also on the rise, where we've had a number of quite high-profile employers, such as Amazon, move in and take over a lot of space. And we've also started to see some increase in entrepreneurial action downtown through our drones, our Genius New York program, and some of our partnerships with Center State CEO. So while Micron is definitely above the fold, there's a number of really good things about the economic development here locally, where we have some early initiatives, whether it's supporting pipelines of students to come to campus for the first time, to working with local leaders and developing, leadership development. But there's really a lot of great things happening here locally. So thank you for that question.
I have one, Alex, for you. So just talking about local, let's go international. Can you just touch on a little bit on what some of the things the school is looking at overseas, both as obviously as opportunities for partnerships, but primarily opportunities for our students with a in terms of a global perspective?
Wonderful. So we were one of the first schools on campus to send students abroad post-pandemic. That was back in May. We sent a group of students, undergrads, to Kenya. And we made it just through kind of the COVID loophole there, where we were we had mass testing, the risk assessment, people signed off this, but we sent a small group of undergraduate students to Kenya to go and work with local business people as part of a class as a global experience. Some of the other things we had intended to do, we didn't do last spring, but this year we're excited to relaunch our work in London. So we'll actually have a faculty member there, Kathy Meriton of the management department, who will be there full time at the SU Abroad site in London, to making sure that our students who are abroad at this tremendous business site to get a high quality Whitman experience with courses that'll count towards the Whitman degree. So this is a little bit of a different take than what we've done before, where students have mostly gone abroad and taken arts and science classes. We're really emphasizing the business options and business projects while we're there. And so one side of our commitment is that. We're also going to send students back to Kenya again this year. We are looking to send a group of students to Japan and Korea in May as part of a series of kind of Asian business exploration that we started before the pandemic, but we're going to continue now. And one of our faculty members, Q Lee, who's the Associate Dean for Global Initiatives, will also be spending significant time there in Korea in the fall to help look to see what we can do more formally at the university level to support our students' international experiences. And that's important because over the past few years, many of the SU Abroad locations have become isolated or become focused exclusively on Europe and Latin America. So making sure that Asia is back on the map for us is key. And so, Korea makes a great spot given the faculty connections, alumni connections, and long support of history we have there. So excited to see what happens about that. But those are some of the ones that are front and center on just the next couple weeks for international experiences. And longer term, we're looking at running a course in Stockholm and also running some of these international residencies that we were offering before the pandemic for our online programs. So before the pandemic, we'd run courses in Dubai and Costa Rica on sustainability. We also did a course on global supply chain in Panama, so seeing the Panama Canal, and among other things. So now that we seem to be in a little bit safer environment, we're looking to expand a lot of our work that is fundamentally global. Those are just a few tidbits that support that.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions at the moment. So it looks like we've done a pretty good job of touching base with on all the topics. Oh, sorry, here comes one. I'm going to try to read this read this on the fly. You mentioned Jim Keene from the left coast says, you mentioned students visiting New York City and getting exposed to alternative investment. What opportunities do students have to learn about venture capital, private equity, real estate, commodities, and so forth?
Jim, thank you so much. So when I said we sent students to Silicon Valley, much of that was thanks to Jim. So I will gratefully acknowledge your support and your time for doing that. So alternative investments, we actually will include a lot of those things that you're talking about. We have a new fintech course that is specifically looking at crypto. We've also had a blockchain course we've had for a few years. So there's some key expansions there, right, related to those areas you asked about. The venture capital course we've been teaching for many years. That's an entrepreneurship course. It's really about entrepreneurial finance. And so while venture capital is one component of that, we do offer other things such as angel investing, family and friends. And so students will have that opportunity to get there. If you want to hear more about what we're doing internally about crypto, we actually have a webinar tomorrow that Allison Kessler, who is our director of alumni relations, has mentioned. She'll put a link to that in the chat, so you'll be able to see that. But we're really doing a lot in this area, and a lot of the alternative investments coursework and new courses and new faculty we brought in focus specifically on those important and increasingly important areas. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, Alex, we have an old friend of the school, Don Farb, asking a question. I was just curious about the dean search. You have interim in front of your title, which we know that there's a search underway. Can you give us an update and maybe also a sense of timeline?
So I actually know very little about that, but I will share what I do know. We have hired a search firm. This is pretty normal practice for a dean search. There's a committee that's formed, a job description has been sent out, and the briefing I got from the provost, who is the decision maker on the search, says that the process is going very well so far, and that there's a number of really good candidates. And one of the things that she keeps hearing from candidates and the search firm relays to her is how attractive this job is because of the fact that we're clearly on the rise, doing so many things, and that things are going really well. So when you look at for dean positions, having a school that is ascending is a much more attractive position than a descending one. And so clearly all the good work that the faculty and staff have been putting in the last few years are making this a more attractive position. Normally what happens is the deans are kind of announced in the late spring and then tend to start over the summer. So I haven't heard anything that would suggest deviating from that timeline, but I suspect we will have a permanent dean in place by the start of the next school year.
Awesome. Just trying to check and see if we have anything else here. I don't have any. So maybe that's it. Maybe we've addressed everything for today.
Well, if that's the case, well, I appreciate everyone's continued support for the Whitman School, our students, our staff, our faculty. We really can do a lot of the things that we're able to do to support this lifelong transformational experience for our students without your help. So if you have other ways that you want to get involved, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, to Allison Kessler, to Chris Crooker, to our Career Center, or anyone else. We can happy to work together with you to make sure that Whitman continues on the rise and that we're not done with our hard work. So thanks very much for your time. I appreciate your continued interest in this. Have a great afternoon.